Hey, y'all, Doug with D&E in the Garage. Today I want to give you a couple tips for changing your power steering lines once they've started leaking. Alright, now the obvious first step is going to be to find yourself some replacement lines. These can be bought on Rock Auto or anything, but I found mine in the junkyard last weekend. If you want to see the video of that trip, card up in the corner. I was lucky enough to find a Jeep in the junkyard that had near brand new lines on it, so I pulled them. They were $8 a piece in the junkyard. They would have been $25 to $40 a piece had I bought them online. Now what I'm dealing with here is a definite power steering fluid leak. Looks like it's coming from my high pressure line right at the fitting where the flexible line connects to the hard line. Now once you're ready to start tearing stuff apart, you're going to want to get whatever is blocking you from having room to work around your lines out of the way. On this Jeep, it's going to be the air box. It could be anything on your vehicle. Alright, once you have everything that's in between you and your lines out of the way, you're going to want to remove any power steering fluid that's still up in your reservoir. I like to do that with a transfer pump. You can do it with a turkey baster if that's all you got. You can probably get one real cheap at Walmart. Wouldn't recommend using your wife's good one from Thanksgiving. Just stick this down there, find something to put it in. Now this transfer pump I have, I think it was about 10 bucks at Walmart. Real inexpensive. Next, you're going to want to get a catch basin and position it right underneath your power steering lines. This is going to be a messy job. Alright, the next thing you're going to want to do is start taking off your lines. In my case, I got to take off the high pressure line first before I can get to the low pressure line. Now, like I said, this is going to be messy, so you may want to have a rag handy to catch some of the power steering fluid that is going to be leaking out of these lines. Alright, on power steering reservoirs like this one that are plastic, there's a trick for getting this low pressure rubber hose fitting off. And the trick is this: don't try to get it off. Figure out, see where the bulge is, figure out where the plastic nipple stops, and cut this line right below it. The reason is this: this has been sitting on there through hundreds of thousands of heat cycles for God knows how many years. If you try to twist this rubber bit off this plastic, you're going to break this right off the reservoir. I've done it more times than I would like to admit. So what you're going to do is get a reasonably sharp knife, cut this right there. Again, rag for the oil that's inevitably coming out. Now what you can do is take your pliers, remove this fitting, and just cut this thing off. Then you get it to a point, oh, she'll slide right off. But you can see how flimsy this is. It's just asking to break, and I've broken them on many. And then all of a sudden, this job that was going to cost you 50 bucks if you bought them from the store and take you 20 minutes, now you got to run out, you got to get a new reservoir, maybe you got to get a whole new pump if you can't find anybody who's selling just the reservoir. Alright, once your top lines are off, the only thing that's left to do is to get the fittings that are down below on your steering box or steering rack. Good chance that these are going to be deep down in your engine bay. In my case, I've got a lower rad hose kind of going over it, making it a little more difficult. Yours could be in any number of places, making it more or less difficult. But go slow, take your time. Shouldn't have any problems. Oh, boy. It's places like this where a good offset wrench comes in. For those of you that don't know, the reason these wrenches are offset so that if you're in a tight spot, you can twist it one way, then flip it and twist it again. You're not stuck in one position, right? That's the beauty of a wrench like this. Go this way, flip it, and you got a whole new angle. All right, as soon as you have one of your holes, your ports exposed, you want to be real careful. You get a little piece of rust in there or something, and you may have a very big problem on your hand. You may be installing a new steering box in the near future. So as soon as you've exposed the top of your steering box, your steering rack, you want to start being real careful. If you can find a little plastic cap or something to put over it, wouldn't be a bad idea. Alright, once you have them off, you're going to put your new ones back on in the opposite order, which means for me, on this Jeep Cherokee, I'm going to do bottom high pressure, bottom low pressure, top low pressure, top high pressure. It's the only way to get them in right. You want to do your best to thread these in by hand. The last thing you want to do is cross thread something on your power steering box. Once you have them in a few threads, then go ahead and use a wrench to get them down the rest of the way. But don't tighten them. You want these fittings to be able to move until you have everything in place up top as well. So get them nice and snug, and then leave them right where they are so that you can come back later once everything's in place and tighten them down the right way. Alright, here's a little trick for getting your low pressure line back onto this plastic nub here. Take a little bit of the power steering fluid that's inevitably still leaking out and just put it right on the nub there, help lubricate it a bit. Then hopefully, if you're careful, this guy will slide right on. Again, you want to be careful because if you break this off, it's game over and your day just got a whole lot more difficult. Put that on, slide the compression ring up over the nub, and that guy is in place. Now this last high pressure line you put in is difficult because there's tension on the whole system, so it doesn't really want to let you hand thread it in. You got to be real careful when you're using a wrench on it. Make sure there's no resistance. If there is, you're probably cross threaded. Before you snug everything down, you're going to want to make sure that your lines are not laying on anything moving, like your steering components, or on anything hot, like manifolds. Now granted, this is an intake manifold, but still, when I tighten this down, I'm going to make sure that it's hanging away from there at least a good inch. Last thing you want to do is snug everything down. Obviously, you don't want to strip them out, but you do want to make sure that they're nice and tight. I'd say give them about a grunt and a half. Alright, now there's a good chance that after this process, your whole engine bay is going to be full of power steering fluid, either because of the process itself or because you just had a leak there for months and months. You're going to want to take some brake parts cleaner and clean that stuff off. The catch is, don't get it on any of the rubber lines here, any rubber lines or plastic components anywhere. This stuff degrades synthetic material. So spray it down, clean it up with a rag, otherwise you won't be able to tell if there's a leak in your new lines. Anything that's either rubber or plastic that has fluid on it, you're going to just want to take a rag and clean it off the best you can. Alrighty, next step is going to be to add more power steering fluid to your reservoir. Make sure you get the right kind of power steering fluid for your vehicle. Some vehicle, like my wife's Commander, they use a special OEM specific fluid. Find that out. On this first one, you're going to fill it right to the top. Next thing you want to do is turn the vehicle on to circulate the power steering fluid. I like to let it run for a good 2 or 3 minutes. Next thing you want to do is come out and check your level. You might have a clear reservoir where you can see the level right on the side, or you may have a dipstick type like this Jeep. If you have a dipstick type, wipe it off, reinsert it, pull it out, check your level. Now in my case, looks like I'm right on. So what we're going to do is go back in the vehicle, turn it on, and turn the wheel lock to lock. Once you've done that, you want to check your level again and examine all the lines you just put in. See if anything is showing any signs of leaking. If you establish there's no signs of leaks anywhere, you can go ahead and start putting your vehicle back together. This job is done. You're definitely going to want to keep an eye on those lines and the level for the next few days. You might need to add some fluid after a few days. You're going to want to make sure that nothing starts leaking, but this should be job finished. Alright friends, there you have it. Shiny new power steering lines. Well, new to me anyway. It's amazing what you can find at the junkyard. Save yourself a bunch of money. Anyway, hope you found the video amusing, entertaining, maybe even a little educational. If you did, by all means, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment down there in the squawk boxes if you got anything to say. Got any questions, I'll do my best to help you out. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.